Thank you. Thank you, everybody. The reading, the meditation, the music chokes me up all the time. Oh, gosh. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak. And I think I see a friend of mine from southern Spain who's joining us on Zoom, so here's a shout out to my Bloom sister. So this title has been on my mind for basically years. I have used the I Ching quite a bit in the past, and so the concept of doing nothing and everything getting done, it sort of evolved. But it does sort of come from Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching. And just to give you a recap, he was born in 604 BC. So this is a very old accumulation and compilation of a lot of wisdom. The lessons are these. I'll just briefly run through them. Of Taoism, the lessons of Taoism. Non-contention, non-action, non-intention, simplicity, wisdom, humility, duality and holism, qi, which we know as energy or breathing. It comes from the word air, vapors, ether. And then ti, day, whatever, however that's pronounced, means virtue and power. So this is not just a philosophy, it's a way of life. And I've been a human doing for many years. I grew up in a family of trauma. I became a teacher. I am a multitasker and a product of the 50s and 60s when progress, was an American thing. The expansion, the growth, and that was taking place. So these are all patterns that were set in place. And so I grew up needing to work, heal, fix, and I kept pushing and working and doing more and more. Sound familiar? Well, I was a slow learner, and it took a while to get the truth of this phrase deeper within me, because it is an inner journey. Eventually, the benefits of my inner work showed up sporadically over the years, but now I'm almost a full-time practitioner of doing nothing. That may sound impossible to those of you who know me and what I'm doing in Brooklyn with my big 2-story house, my acre of land, and yet, how can I do nothing and still see evidence of growth and improvement and things getting done? Well, I'd like to take you on a story on things that have sort of happened in the last couple of weeks that will exemplify this. So I was a bit overwhelmed about a particular project decision and how I was going to dedicate a room in my house, and I felt stuck. I couldn't move forward. So I became a couch potato. I just watched Netflix, I cleaned, I cooked, I putzed around. My ego was overwhelmed, and I was not comfortable moving forward, so I looked like I was procrastinating, but I didn't berate or shame myself into thinking that I wasn't doing it right. I emptied myself out of the usual mental chatter of this humongous task. A 72-year-old woman shouldn't be doing this, but I am. And then I got a pretty big check in the mail, totally unexpected, a nice surprise, and it was a validation. It was a nice pat on the back. I released any preconceived notions about how I should travel through this decision-making process. And I know from my Science of Mind training that we do not have to be subject to the way things are done by the majority or the way things are normally done by, normal, average, people. Exceptions and miracles are everywhere. And then I got the call. The workers would be delayed until after the weekend. And that was a relief, because then it gave me a few more days to just, look at the situation again. Clarity came. I was able to make the decision, and the project moved along nicely. So I stayed centered, and the guys came. They were very efficient, got 7 windows put in a matter of hours. And then a bat appeared in my house. They never saw it fly in. I thought I knew where it had entered, but later on I found out differently. I spent some time worrying and Googling while the bat hung out in my dining room. This event tried to throw me off balance emotionally, and when I finally figured out what to do next, in the morning, it was gone, and I had no idea where it went. I searched high and low, under things, in things, but my house is under construction, so there was a damaged part in the wall where it could have actually flown up into it, so I started to take out that wall. It was a wall that I wanted to remove anyways. And it was, I was a little reticent, but, I just thought that maybe I'd find the bat in there or something. I'm not quite sure. But this is then what happened. While I was tearing that wall down, an HVAC guy showed up. Someone I had called earlier, but he left me no message. I had no idea when or if he was going to show up. And he gave me the information that I'd been hoping for. He said, yes, that vent in that wall can be relocated. So go ahead, tear down the wall, call me when you're done. Yes. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to connect my kitchen to my dining room with a big open space, and I didn't think it could be done until all the synchronicity happened. So this is sort of how it works around my house. I stay in alignment with my greater good. I do take steps. I pick up tools. I move things here and there. I'm definitely not being lazy. But my mind does not get attached to anything specific. My mind is not tied up in the knots about my dilemma. My mind essentially is doing nothing except what is right in front of me, like where to put the debris of all this plaster. I acknowledge that it is not my small self that is in charge, but God. And I use God to mean the energetic cosmos, the law of reciprocity. And my responsibility is to settle into myself. Capital S, myself. The conditions of the world may try to get your attention, but do not leave yourself. Capital S. So what falls away when you release your small self? The stress and urgency, the worry, the pleading, the idea of having to perform or promise. Expectations and limitations fall away. The ones that we have on ourselves, but also the ones that we have for others. The need to complain, control, force, or push. Old labels of not being good enough. This is my thing, releasing what I should be doing or that I'm not doing it right. No more do I think like that. Now, many ideas of separation fall away. The separation that we may have from our greater good, separation from our body, separation from others. For when we have this release and this emptiness, we also have the allness, the all-inclusive, one complete and connected life. Validation, the need for validation falls away, and there's this constant barrage of voices that's always there, but we don't have to pay attention. How many people are releasing news shows for more music and reading and silence. Yeah, it's a sign. Another thing that falls away is previously learned algorithms. I use the word algorithms because I'm a former math teacher, and I taught a lot of algorithms to my students. Basically, if you remember, it's a step-by-step procedures to complete a process. Well, what is damaging about that to the young minds is when students don't understand what those steps represent. And then it becomes just a rote set of procedures with no real understanding. And I believe that we lose a lot of mathematicians in 4th grade because of that dang division algorithm. You remember, I mean, it makes no sense when you look at it. It's the divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. You know, that's hard for the kids to take on unless they have worked it out at their own level of understanding. Just think of how many new innovations are possible when we release the old conventions and allow the new ways to surface. I want to mention something from Science of Mind. It was and is my big area of study. And there is an important step in the affirmative prayer that we do. It is done after all the other components have been spoken. It is the release step. Its purpose is to let it out of the human limited mind and let it go into the unlimited source that can act upon it. We do not hold on to our words. The greater mind of God and the serendipitous power of synchronicity receive our words so they can be activated. What can be gained by doing nothing? When we release the above, we create space to bring forth from within our perfection, our greater good. It is within us at all times, and it can now be revealed because all those layers of ego, fears, denial are being dissipated. The perfect expression within rises up into the emptiness, into the space and spaciousness of my consciousness. I do nothing except release my thoughts. We gain trust. We build it as we reside more and more in the unknown. We get more and more comfortable with our vulnerability. We open up to a whole new level of thinking and problem solving. Remember the Einstein quote, we can't solve the problem at the level the problem was created at? Well, by doing nothing, we enter into a whole new vast field of unlimited possibilities because we are able to access the infinite mind through our intuition, which requires silence so we can hear it. We must release the repetition of old tapes in our head, talking heads and the naysayers. We also gain the ability to return and reconnect ourselves to the unlimited source of God. Nothingness means no barriers, no prayers, no doubt, no seeking, no expectation. It is freedom, true freedom. And I loved your meditation because it really spoke to those. There are challenges to this practice. It sounds like a wonderful meditation practice, but how does it all happen when we are immersed in the fast-paced, stimulating stresses of daily life? Well, maybe we're thinking about it all wrong. Here's a Jesus quote that I'd like to tweak. I've interpreted it metaphysically, and here's the quote. The foxes have dens, and the birds have their nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Now, he may have been referring to the fact that he was homeless, and if you follow him, you will not have a nice, soft place to sleep. But I think of this quote in a metaphysical way. The animals and birds have housing instincts. guided by their DNA and genetics, but us humans, in regards to our spiritual journey, are not confined to residing in one place all the time. As we travel the adventure of our true infinite self, there is no locality. We are called upon to accept the empty, the mystery, the change, and the unknowable. We are not called to lay our head in political camps or lay our head within geopolitical boundaries called countries, or in the dogma of religions or opinion news. Consider laying our head on nothing right here, right now. Let's relinquish our small self and our pillow and enter through the gate of nothingness, where the void is waiting to transform us and the world. There's nothing there but unlimited, unformed substance. I have been focusing on the doing nothing part, and now I want to focus on the everything gets done part. This is actually the practical part of the spiritual journey. If you're like me, you want to heal and change the world. You want to relieve the pain, the trauma, the war, the poverty, and transform it into health, peace, joy, and abundance. But we can't do these things, we can't do these kinds of transformations at the conscious level. We will never transform our society by all of this doing and fixing and pointing the finger, voting on another political regime, passing more laws. I mean, those things are good, but true transformation gets done at the unconscious level, the vibrational level. So by letting go and doing nothing, we begin to realize our true power of God's will in our hands. We not only touch the omnipresence and the omniscience, we activate it, we vibrate it, we are it. This is who we are. These things are not outside of us. We can take on the thought of a problem and release it into the vibrational unconscious essence. We invite and vibrate the gifts of grace within. It pours out of us as energy and light and service and ease. Back to my house project. Just for a moment, because when I first moved into that house, I thought I was going to do something to that house. I've come to realize that it is not me doing something to the house. What is happening is the house and I are revealing the perfection within it and the healing within me. And I'll put a plug in for QCC today because I'm going to bring up a topic that invites us to think about that which is within all of us, in our community, in our sanctuary, in our building, in Interfaith Center for Spiritual Growth. It's what is within us, and it is with what is within the whole community. I want to end with a short visual. It came from my teacher, Adi Vajra, who explains this Lao Tzu quote differently. He sees it as a state of being so prepared and unified in God that when you immerse yourself in your study and in all aspects of your mastery, the perfect expression of it is effortless. A good example is that beautiful music we heard. You are so prepared and aligned, it just flows out so easily. So here's the visual. Close your eyes if you'd like. Imagine yourself as an archer. You are the archer, the bow and the bowstring. You are the retraction of your arm. You are the muscles, wrist, hands, and fingers as you pull back the string firmly, powerfully, yet easily. You are the poised arrow. You are intense, focused eyesight. You are the release of your fingers and the burst of power. And you are the unleashed arrow. And so it is.